ExamPrep.School. Washington Life Insurance Producer Exam. There are 4 practice exams in this series. This video covers Practice Exam 1. The first 20 questions are free. In this video, we will be covering the following major categories for Practice Exam 1. Annuities, federal laws and regulations, federal tax considerations for life insurance, general insurance concepts, life insurance basics, life insurance policy provisions, options, and riders, types of life insurance policies, Washington laws, rules, and regulations. Let's walk through the format. I'll read each question and its choices. Let's get started. Question 1. Under the Fair Credit Reporting Act, what is the primary purpose when consumer credit reports are used in insurance underwriting? A. To protect consumer privacy rights by restricting all access to credit reports. B. To ensure the accuracy, fairness, and proper use of consumer credit information. C. To limit insurers' ability to consider credit history when setting premium rates. D. To require insurers to provide copies of credit reports to applicants upon request. A countdown circle appears in the top right. Once it completes, the answer is revealed. You can pause at any time if you'd like longer to think. If you'd like additional practice covering more topics, see the description for our book. The correct answer is B. The Fair Credit Reporting Act mandates that credit information used in underwriting be handled with procedures ensuring maximum possible accuracy, fairness in usage, and protection of consumer information, which supports equitable insurance decisions. Reason A is not correct. The Act does not completely restrict access to credit reports. It regulates accuracy and permissible uses rather than banning all access. Reason C is not correct. The Act does not prohibit consideration of credit history for premiums. It controls accuracy and usage practices. Reason D is not correct. While consumers have rights to disclosures, the primary Act purpose is not mandating report distribution to applicants. Question 2. Under federal criminal statutes, which element is required to establish a charge of insurance fraud? A. Knowing and willful execution of a scheme to defraud an insurer by false pretenses or representations, using mail or any facility in interstate commerce. B. A civil violation subject to monetary fines without proof of intent to deceive. C. Unintentional misstatements by an agent that lead a consumer to purchase coverage. D. Internal bookkeeping errors that misclassify premium revenue. The correct answer is A. The correct answer identifies the criminal statute's required elements. A knowing and willful fraudulent scheme against an insurer using mail or interstate commerce. Civil violations, unintentional errors, or internal accounting mistakes do not satisfy the elements of federal criminal insurance fraud. Reason B is not correct. It describes a civil penalty scheme without the knowing and willful intent required for a criminal conviction. Reason C is not correct. Lacks the knowing and willful element, and the use of mail or interstate facilities necessary for federal criminal fraud. Reason D is not correct. Involves accounting mistakes within a company, not a fraudulent scheme communicated via mail or interstate commerce. Question 3. An insurance agent in Seattle schedules an automated marketing call to a prospect in Boston at 6:15 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on the first Monday after the end of daylight saving time. The prospect's telephone number is not on the National Do Not Call registry. Under the National Do Not Call rules, is the call allowed? A. Yes, because it occurs at 9:15 a.m. in the prospect's local time, which is within the permitted window. B. No, because the call is placed before 8:00 a.m. at the caller's local time. C. No, because automated marketing calls may not begin until after 9:00 a.m., local time of the recipient. D. Yes, because cross-state telemarketing calls are not subject to time-of-day restrictions. The correct answer is A. The National Do Not Call rules restrict telemarketing calls to between 8 o'clock a.m. and 9 o'clock p.m. at the called party's local time. Although the call is set for 6:15 a.m. PST, it corresponds to 9:15 a.m. EST in Boston, which falls within the allowed time frame. Reason B is not correct. This rationale assumes the caller's local time controls, but the rule is based on the recipient's local time. Reason C is not correct. This suggests calls cannot start until after 9 a.m., but the rule actually allows calls from 8 a.m. onward. Reason D is not correct. There is no exemption for cross-state calls. Time of day restrictions still apply. Question 4. Which of the following is a statutory duty of the Washington Insurance Commissioner? A. Administer federal insurance benefit programs. B. Determine premium amounts for life insurance products. C. Represent policyholders in private claims disputes. D. Investigate insurers for compliance with state insurance laws. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is to investigate insurers for compliance with state insurance laws because the commissioner is charged by statute with enforcing and examining insurer activities under Washington insurance statutes. Reason A is not correct. Federal insurance benefit programs are administered by federal agencies, not by the Washington Insurance Commissioner. Reason B is not correct. The commissioner does not set premium amounts for individual life insurance products. Rates are filed by insurers and subject to regulatory review, but not directly determined by the commissioner. Reason C is not correct. The commissioner does not act as legal counsel or represent policyholders in private disputes. That duty falls to private attorneys. Question 5. Under Washington law, the insurance commissioner may conduct a market conduct examination of an insurer when which of the following conditions is met? A. An insurer requests review of its state market share. B. Credible evidence indicates the insurer engaged in unfair claims practices. C. A cease and desist order has been issued against the insurer. D. The insurer has been in operation for more than 10 years without review. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is that the commissioner may initiate a market conduct examination when there is credible evidence of unfair claims practices. As Washington law authorizes exams to investigate suspected unfair trade or claims handling. Reason A is not correct. An insurer's request for market share review is not a statutory trigger for a market conduct examination. Reason C is not correct. Issuing a cease and desist order against an insurer is a separate enforcement action and not a precondition for examinations. Reason D is not correct. Length of operation without prior review alone does not automatically authorize a market conduct examination. Question 6. Which of the following grounds alone justifies the Washington Insurance Commissioner issuing a cease and desist order against a producer? A. Charging clients fees exceeding department-approved amounts. B. Engaging in false or misleading advertising of insurance products. C. Failing to maintain required continuing education credits. D. Declining to represent an applicant with the pre-existing medical condition. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is engaging in false or misleading advertising because Washington law classifies deceptive advertising as an unfair practice warranting a cease and desist order. Reason A is not correct. Excessive fees may lead to sanctions but are not specifically grounds for a cease and desist order under unfair practices provisions. Reason C is not correct. Failure to maintain continuing education credits can result in license suspension or revocation, not a cease and desist order. Reason D is not correct. A producer's refusal to represent certain applicants is not defined as an unfair practice that triggers a cease and desist order. Question 7. Under Washington law, the insurance commissioner may suspend or revoke a producer's license upon conviction of which of the following? A. Submission of applications to multiple insurers simultaneously. B. Failure to submit annual inventory of confidential files. C. Cancellation of the producer's office rental lease. D. A felony involving dishonesty or breach of trust. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is a felony involving dishonesty or breach of trust because Washington statutes authorize license suspension or revocation for criminal convictions that reflect on a producer's fitness and integrity. Reason A is not correct. Submitting multiple applications is part of normal producer operations and not a revocation trigger. Reason B is not correct. Not submitting file inventories may incur fines or other administrative penalties, but is not grounds for license revocation. Reason C is not correct. Lease cancellation is unrelated to a producer's licensure status under insurance law. Question 8. A licensed insurance producer receives a notice of hearing from the Washington Insurance Commissioner alleging improper marketing practices. The notice states it was served on June 1st and schedules the hearing for July 10th. Which action must the producer take to comply with the Commissioner's hearing procedures? A. Submit any discovery request within 30 days after a pre-hearing conference. B. Request that the hearing be held within 10 days of service. C. Object to the Commissioner's exhibit list at least 15 days before the hearing. D. File a written response to the notice of hearing within 20 days of service. The correct answer is D. Under Washington law, a respondent must file a written response to the notice of hearing within 20 days of service to avoid a default judgment. Reason A is not correct. Discovery rules under the insurance code do not specify a 30-day deadline after a pre-hearing conference for submitting requests. Reason B is not correct. The hearing date is set by the Commissioner, and there is no provision for requesting an earlier hearing within 10 days of service. Reason C is not correct. Objections to exhibit lists must be filed closer to the hearing date, but there is no 15-day before requirement for this step. Question 9. Under Washington state insurance regulations, an applicant for a resident life insurance producer license must complete a minimum of how many pre-licensing education hours specific to life insurance? A. 10 hours. B. 30 hours. C. 20 hours. D. 40 hours. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is 20 hours because Washington requires 20 hours of life insurance-specific pre-licensing education. Reason A is not correct. An amount of 10 hours understates the required curriculum length for life insurance licensing. Reason B is not correct. 30 hours overstates the specific life insurance education requirement for applicants. Reason D is not correct. 40 hours refers to the combined life and health pre-licensing requirement, not life alone. Question 10. In Washington state, fingerprint images submitted by a life insurance producer applicant for the federal criminal history record check are also forwarded to which state agency for a state-level background check? A. Washington Department of Licensing. B. Department of Social and Health Services. C. Office of the Attorney General. D. Washington State Patrol. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is Washington State Patrol, because fingerprint submissions are used to obtain state criminal history from that agency. Reason A is not correct. The Department of Licensing does not process fingerprint-based state criminal history checks. Reason B is not correct. The Department of Social and Health Services is unrelated to fingerprint-based criminal record checks for licensing. Reason C is not correct. The Attorney General's office does not maintain applicant criminal history from fingerprints. Question 11. Under Washington insurance regulations, a passing score on the life insurance producer examination remains valid for how long after the exam date? A. 12 months. B. 6 months. C. 18 months. D. 24 months. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is 12 months because exam results remain valid for 1 year to file a license application. Reason B is not correct. 6 months understates the actual validity period for exam results. Reason C is not correct. 18 months exceeds the allowed period during which exam results remain valid. Reason D is not correct. 24 months doubles the permitted validity duration for exam scores. Question 12. Resident life insurance producer licenses in Washington expire on the last day of the licensee's birth month at what interval? A. Annually. B. Every 4 years. C. Every 3 years. D. Every 2 years. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is every 2 years because licenses renew biennially on the birth month's last day. Reason A is not correct. Annual renewal is incorrect because life producer licenses renew biennially. Reason B is not correct. A 4-year renewal period does not apply to Washington life producer licenses. Reason C is not correct. A 3-year interval is incorrect for Washington life producer license renewals. Question 13. How many continuing education hours must a Washington resident life insurance producer complete each renewal cycle? A. 24 hours. B. 16 hours. C. 20 hours. D. 12 hours. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is 24 hours because Washington requires 24 CE credits every 2 years for life insurance producers. Reason B is not correct. 16 hours underestimates the mandated CE hours. Reason C is not correct. 20 hours is insufficient relative to the 24-hour requirement. Reason D is not correct. 12 hours is below the required total for a 2-year renewal cycle. Question 14. A Washington life insurance producer submits her license renewal application with 24 total continuing education credits, but she only completed 2 ethics credit hours. The state requirement is 3 ethics credit hours per renewal cycle. Which action must she take before the renewal deadline to comply with Washington regulations? A. Complete at least 1 additional hour of ethics coursework and submit the certificate prior to renewal. B. Undertake 3 additional ethics hours to replace general credit deficiencies. C. File a request for an ethics CE waiver with the Washington Insurance Commissioner. D. Carry over the ethics hour deficiency to the next renewal cycle. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is to complete the additional 1 ethics credit hour to satisfy the 3-hour ethics continuing education requirement before renewal. Reason B is not correct. Requiring 3 extra ethics hours exceeds the total ethics requirement rather than making up the single-hour shortfall. Reason C is not correct. Washington does not provide waivers for ethics continuing education requirements. Reason D is not correct. Deficiencies cannot be carried over. All required credits must be completed within the current cycle. Question 15. A Washington producer fails to complete the required 24 continuing education credits, including ethics hours before the license renewal date. What is the immediate regulatory consequence under Washington law? A. Automatic license expiration on the renewal date, requiring full CE completion and a reinstatement fee before reactivation. B. Imposition of a civil penalty per missing credit hour while the license remains active. C. Requirement to retake the producer licensing examination within 30 days. D. Reduction of the next renewal cycle's CE requirement by the number of hours missed. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is that the license expires automatically at renewal if CE requirements are unmet, and the producer must complete all credits and pay a reinstatement fee to reactivate. Reason B is not correct. Civil penalties are not imposed for missing credits. The license lapses instead of remaining active. Reason C is not correct. Retaking the licensing exam is not required for CE noncompliance. Reason D is not correct. Washington does not reduce future CE requirements to offset prior deficiencies. Question 16. According to Washington insurance law, which of the following is defined as an unfair trade practice? A. Providing consumers with required policy disclosure statements. B. Charging higher rates to policyholders based on loss experience. C. Misrepresenting the terms or benefits of an insurance policy. D. Allowing producers to retain full commissions on new sales. The correct answer is C. The correct answer identifies misrepresentation of policy terms, which statutory language explicitly lists as an unfair trade practice under Washington law. Reason A is not correct. Providing required disclosures is mandated by law and does not constitute an unfair trade practice. Reason B is not correct. Loss experience-based rating is a permissible underwriting classification, not an unfair practice. Reason D is not correct. Producers retaining commissions is a standard compensation practice, not an unfair trade practice. Question 17. Under Washington insurance law, which of the following examples illustrates an illegal rebating practice? A. Providing a no-cost copy of the filed policy for consumer review. B. Splitting part of a producer's commission with an applicant to induce a policy purchase. C. Offering a volume discount on premiums to members of a professional association. D. Allowing electronic funds transfer for premium payments without incurring extra fees. The correct answer is B. The correct answer describes splitting a producer's commission as an inducement not specified in the policy, which is prohibited rebating under Washington law. Reason A is not correct. Supplying policy copies free of charge is a permitted consumer disclosure requirement. Reason C is not correct. Volume discounts to defined groups are allowed if applied uniformly, not considered rebating. Reason D is not correct. Electronic funds transfer without fees is a permissible payment method, not a rebate. Question 18. Which of the following sales inducements is permissible under Washington insurance law? A. Promising non-guaranteed dividends to guarantee reduced future premiums. B. Offering a $20 gift card to applicants for attending a policy presentation session. C. Providing a rebate of the first-year premium to induce policy purchase. D. Delivering tuition reimbursement to group members for referring new applicants. The correct answer is B. The correct answer involves a nominal gift that meets the minimal value exception under Washington regulations, whereas other options constitute illegal rebates or misrepresentations. Reason A is not correct. Guaranteeing non-guaranteed dividends misrepresents policy features, making it an unfair inducement. Reason C is not correct. Rebating a first-year premium constitutes unlawful rebate under Washington law. Reason D is not correct. Tuition reimbursement for referrals is an inducement not specified in the policy and is prohibited. Question 19. Which of the following examples constitutes misrepresentation of policy terms under Washington law? A. Disclosing all policy exclusions as required by statutory regulations. B. Providing applicants with a written summary of policy terms approved by the insurer. C. Asserting policy dividends are guaranteed despite insurer's discretion to change rates. D. Quoting. State-mandated policy language verbatim in marketing materials. The correct answer is C. The correct answer describes falsely guaranteeing dividends, which is a misrepresentation of policy terms and is prohibited as an unfair trade practice. Reason A is not correct. Disclosing required exclusions complies with statutory regulations, not an unfair practice. Reason B is not correct. Providing an insurer-approved summary accurately reflects policy terms, not a misrepresentation. Reason D is not correct. Using state-mandated language verbatim is permissible and does not misrepresent terms. Question 20. Under Washington law, which of the following actions constitutes defamation of a competing insurer? A. Comparing competitor premiums using publicly available rates. B. Criticizing a competitor's customer service record based on documented facts. C. Falsely stating a competitor is insolvent to discourage applicants. D. Suggesting a competitor's policy lacks an optional rider available elsewhere. The correct answer is C. The correct answer involves knowingly making false statements about a competitor's financial solvency, which meets the statutory definition of defamation under Washington insurance law. Reason A is not correct. Using publicly available rate information for comparison is a permissible competitive practice. Reason B is not correct. Fact-based criticism does not involve false statements and therefore is not defamation. Reason D is not correct. Suggesting lack of a rider without asserting false facts is marketing comparisons, not defamation. Enjoyed this practice test? Tap like, hit subscribe, and share it with a classmate. Got a question we should tweak? Comment below, we read them all. Find full practice exam books in the description or at ExamPrep.School.